Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being the show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A fantastic season premiere. I love this season premiere, just everything it set up. I mean, what it means for the rest of the season. I will say I am a little sad that this episode, like, because I was just from the previews and everything, I was like, oh man, this is going to be like a more like horror-esque episode, because I mean certain aspects like the roaches killing people, and especially Virgil, didn't see that coming in the middle of a conversation, right through his head, it pulled into the darkness. I was like, holy crap. It's like that's almost some horror level stuff, and it's so interesting because it's like this has always been like a straightforward like crime drama. I mean, not crime drama, science fictional like spy drama is what I was trying to say. And it's just so interesting that it kind of like shifted, like kind of did a little bit of a genre switch. You know, it's like they're in this dark, creepy place. It's just them. It has a bit. I mean, obviously later on Mac made comparisons. It's like, oh, have you ever seen any Alien movie? And I just thought it did kind of have an Alien vibe to it. And I just thought that was so interesting. Just that little like tone shift like that was so intriguing to me. I love the circumstances because it seems like season 4's finale guy, obviously like the very tail end after, you know, when it's like, oh, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will return, like at the very end when you see Coulson staring out, it's like time to get to work. Like obviously that was sometime in the future, but I didn't expect them to kind of like, I don't know, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. They're going to do a little explanation. Who knows how far into the future that moment was at the very end of season 4. But I really love it because basically it's them being taken, like they went through a monolith, but this one's different. Instead of taking them to a planet, like, because they haven't come up since season 3, have they? The monoliths. I don't think they have. I mean, because even then, the one that, I mean, it's to be expected because this one's even different than the ones we've seen. But the last one we saw was the one that was connected to the planet that Hive was on. Did we ever get a name for that planet? I don't remember. Maybe we did. I don't. Because it's so interesting because we haven't really dealt too much with the whole space situation since then. Like, I feel like it's like that concept was thrown out there around season 3, and now it's kind of like we're dealing even more with it to a certain degree. I mean, we're not going like far into space because I was wondering if that's what that was going to be, but it's like, no. I love the twist that we're like actually in the future. Like there were little hints here and there, but because there was a line from Deke that was telling like, he was telling her like, no, don't say it, like, don't talk, you know, less I know, the better. When he said that, I was thinking like, I interpreted it as like, oh, you want her to shut up because she's from the past and it's going to affect the future or something like that. Like, you know, or some weird thing. Like, I don't know why. Because in my head, like you change the future, it changes the past. That's one of my time travel things just because of Final Fantasy 13 too. Nevertheless, in retrospect, now I'm saying it out loud, I was like, that doesn't make as much sense. It turns out, I mean, he was just doing that because it's like the less he knows, like whatever your situation is, your situation, I don't care. I'm trying to get paid. I'm trying to get my situation situated. So that's all that Deacon cared about. But nevertheless, I do like that twist of it being like them being sent into the future. It's like, because even the guy that set the agent, because we got that little bit at the beginning of the episode, which kind of like led up to the very end of season 4 of them being taken. It seemed like he isn't human because he took off his skin. I thought he was taking off his skin to like just replace it, but it seems like he's most likely just taking it off. So whatever he is, he could wash underneath. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting because it's like, because like obviously like the biggest thing going forward with the show has always been with the inhuman. Well, because it's taken sci-fi, its science fictional angle in many different directions. Like subsequently, like, since season 2, I feel like the show's really kicked up its sci-fi angle with like Inhumans, and now you're adding. Then it's like turned into the whole Hive situation. Then it turned into the whole Ada situation. You know, last season as well. Which we do have the return of the framework in a certain extent, which has got to be a little worrisome for like Daisy, because it's like for them, it's like they literally just got done with the whole like. Completely done with the framework. They thought they were done with it, and it's like now it still exists. Because I'm pretty sure in these episodes they never actually broke down how far into the future this whole situation is. But the moment they start bringing up stuff like, oh yeah, you know, like Virgil was bringing up legends and stuff like that. Like, oh, I know all of you, like, oh, the legends and stuff like that. I'm like, what? You thought it was a waiter? I was like, holy crap. Cause I was wondering about that. Cause I was thinking, once again, I thought this was like deep in space, and it's like, oh my god, of course we've heard about S.H.I.E.L.D. I was like, but S.H.I.E.L.D's such like, in the grand scheme of things, I was like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is such small time. It's like, how would you hear about them? It's like, if we were talking like the Avengers or something, I mean, even then it's kind of like, Guardians of the Galaxy, sure. Hell, even they just, I don't even feel like everyone knows about them, no matter what you do. I mean, because I think a lot of stuff that's happened on Earth hasn't really gotten to far spread space anyway, especially when it comes to the Avengers. I mean, obviously, once Infinity Wars happens, like, it's like that's going to get, like, the universe's attention, sure. It's going to definitely put Earth on the map then. But nevertheless, that's neither here nor there. It's just kind of fascinating. But it's like, no, we're not dealing with other worlds. We're dealing with our world. And it's like mad messed up. Like so much good aspects of this episode. Love the conversations about like Coulson not having his arm. It's like literally the type of time we would need that like super awesome arm of yours and you just have a regular prosthetic one. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you leave it? It's like, I thought we were going to get arrested, and if I had it on me, they would take it. And the last thing I want to do is be walking around and locked up with just one arm, you know? So that's kind of sad. It's super sad because it's like that arm is super good. Also, at the same time, it makes you wonder, it's like, oh, could that be their way around? It seems like it might also be a wink and a nudge to be like, well, that way we won't have to worry about spending money on doing all like special effects for his arm and stuff. Like when he pulls out the shield and stuff, it's like, nah, he has to kind of go low grade this season, at least for now. So there's that. The whole conversation, I'm like, come on, it's like, okay, let's split up. And Mac's like, what? Split up? No. Haven't you seen the Alien movie? We all know who'd be the first one to go. And them literally bunched up together. It's like, it's so good. I always love it when things play into like, it's like, no, we know the stereotypes because we've watched movies. We're not idiots. So let's stay together. And they did. And you hear, I think it was like Coulson who said like, we've never looked cooler. I'm like, it's so good. Cause basically this all deals with the Kree. Basically whatever went down on Earth all those years ago has led to this current situation where the Kree have taken advantage of it and humans are kind of enslaved. Like basically what's left of humanity is stuck in this place known as the lighthouse. So we still don't have, like, even with these two episodes, we still don't have a clear-cut explanation of what it went down exactly. But it seems like it's related to Daisy because Deacon's like, I'm the only one, because no one knows for sure because all the record books have been destroyed. But it's like no, like the one who did this to Earth is Daisy. Is like, you know, you're Quake, and I'm like, dude, that's crazy because she is kind of labeled as, I mean, we now know that, you know, Black Bolt exists, but once again, don't know if they're really going to cross those boundaries. It's kind of like both those shows are probably going to stay their own course. If, like, you know, it's one of those situations. It's kind of like how the MCU doesn't recognize Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just because it's like, well, basically you'd ostracize a lot of your audience because a lot of them won't have seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it'd be extra homework on top of having seen every movie in the MCU. Plus you're telling them to watch, like, at this point now, 4 seasons of a TV show, which are like 22 episodes, roughly 20 odd episodes a piece each. So that's a lot. So I doubt they do the same thing to incorporate Inhumans, even if it's just 8 episodes. I think that's just a little, I don't think they're really in the ballpark to, at this point in time, I still don't know its whole situation. I haven't read up onto it. So that's just going to stay the way it is. But nevertheless, the point I'm trying to make is, so Quake, in our knowledge, is literally one of the most powerful. I think they brought it up too, like easily one of the most powerful Inhumans. And if she did what they say she did, that's incredible because the Earth looks like there's like a crescent moon shaped size of it, and the rest of it is just rubble and debris in space. And it's just like, holy crap! It's like, God, it's crazy to think about the possibility that Daisy did it. Maybe it was something because we know that Fitz was kind of connected to this because I forgot who they got it from, but I want to say it came from Virgil, but that the postcard, and it had Fitz's name on the back. So obviously he was working his art because he was the one that wasn't brought into this whole situation, which sucks for him and Gemma because, like, obviously, like, especially like Fitz kind of having to deal with the whole situation of like what went down in the framework, because there's a whole aspect of him not forgiving himself. They like reminded you in the previews and stuff like that. So he kind of has to do that alone rather than just being him and the entire team. I also appreciate, like, really quickly the line of like, oh, is this because of Coulson? Because of the whole, like, you know, like deal you made with the Ghost Riders? Like, no, this has nothing to do with it. What still points it out there is like, yeah, but we still don't know what the hell that price is yet. But that was just kind of interesting. Like, I like that they are reminding us, like, yeah, we haven't answered that, but, you know, keep that in the back of your mind. Like, so I'm guessing that's going to get answered sometime this season. But the fact is that I don't know if Daisy would be able to do that on her own. Like, it had to be extenuating circumstances. Maybe Fitz is trying to buff her powers as a means of defense. Immediately what my brain is thinking is like, this is a situation of they were chosen now to do this because this is their future. Like, things are supposed to play out this way. They were brought to this point in time in the future to kind of find a way to fix things now and go back with this future knowledge or prevent things. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's one of those situations of like, you're meant to know what your future is like so you can go back in time, go back to your past and make sure that things are set up so that this doesn't happen, so that we can erase this possible future, you know? So if you're familiar with the show 12 Monkeys, something kind of similar to that, I think they might be kind of aiming for, but I could be wrong. We'll just kind of have to wait and see how everything kind of breaks down. We end up being introduced to, like, I'm sure, I guess, kind of possibly the main antagonist of the show, the season, Cassius, who I'm right off the bat kind of learn a little bit about him in the sense of like he likes perfection. So that's why he's taking a liking to Gemma, because not only is she smart, obviously still hiding the whole fact of like they're not from this time period and everything, but like she's so smart, and the fact of the matter is she has no blemishes. For him, it's like everything, like you have to cultivate beauty and cut away all the other stuff. So he seems very eccentric. Doesn't seem like a Kree to me. Like, to me, like, I think they've always kind of made it seem like Kree were just kind of like warriors that just fought and just killed whatever kind of got in their way, essentially. And it's like he seems very different from them. The other main one that we've met is Sonara. She has those two spinning spears, which poor guy that tried to run at the beginning got both of them, as well as that servant got them both in the chest. So. And now Gemma's kind of been put in a position of being one of those servants. Like, he put something in her ears to make her deaf. And I guess anytime Gemma was hearing him, I guess it's supposed to represent like Gemma getting acquainted with the whole aspect of like, well, being able to see his like lips, like learning to read his lips. Or maybe it's just like for a while it makes her deaf, but then eventually maybe it's set up so they can only hear his voice. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be like. This way, kind of take your hearing away and make you realize like, oh, I'm the only person that you hear, the only person you're supposed to hear. Or like I said, maybe it's just kind of representing like, oh, her learning read lips. Either way, I'm very interested to see what that whole thing takes them. Once again, still kind of sucks about the whole her and VIDS thing, because even Daisy kind of pointed it out, because Gemma was like, yeah, in his words, like, we're cursed. I also love the fact is that like you have like Mac being like, oh yeah, this is all magic, and Gemma's like, no, it's not magic, this is just science that we haven't figured out yet. And he's like, really? The fact is we go inside of a rock and end up in space. At the time didn't know about the future. After now we're asking if this has anything to do with Coulson making a deal with the Ghost Rider, which is basically like a demon from hell, and you're telling me there's no magic? Because I love that whole conversation. There's even a point where Gemma's kind of snide. It's like, yeah, that must be me using magic. And it's like literally immediately when I think all that, it's just funny because I immediately think magic isn't real, you idiot. Read a book. Shout out to Bo Burnham. Cause I love that, cause I forget, like, amongst all the shows, amongst everything in the MCU, I think nothing pushes that harder than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. of like, magic isn't real, it's like, it's just science. Cause I brought this up before, like when talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like, even like Asgardians and, that whole Asgard situation is like Thor and the gods, they're Norse gods, they're considered aliens to them. I don't know if it's really the whole MCU that treats them like that. It might just be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But it's like, because like there's never been any real magic in the MCU to a certain degree. What I mean by that is like publicly well-known magic. Obviously you have like Iron Fist going down that route, as well as like even amongst the main movies, Doctor Strange. But Doctor Strange's whole adventure was like a small thing. It's probably not like well known. Then who knows? Like, we'd have to really wait till Infinity War to see how that whole situation plays out. To be like, oh, like, so is magic a public thing? I mean, it's like, cause we do know that our two magical figures have crossed paths, like Thor and Doctor Strange before now. So. But that, like, that turns to that situation of like, well, magic, it's there in the Marvel universe, but it's not really like prevalent. I mean, arguably, like, what about the Infinity Stones? Like, I mean, I'm sure they still will break that down to a science, but that's kind of magic too. But it's like semantics. It's just Gemma and Fitz are just stuck in their ways of being like, no, we're scientists. We don't believe in like the mumbo jumbo of magic, essentially. So that's just their scientific brain. But I just still think that's funny. Like, that they will not accept it. Like Mac is the only one that's like, I think other people are more open to the idea, but it's just Simmons and Fitz were the most like, no, magic isn't real, you know? So also really quickly, May got it the roughest this episode because like out of anyone kind of shifting into this whole situation, she ended up shifting with like metal face to her. I guess it's just kind of like jumbling her, like her, essentially her atoms, like her particles got separated, and when she just happened to fuse back together, like fusing with that, so it was kind of stuck in her leg. I did like what they did with Coulson. I was like, oh, at first I was like, oh, like, because I was thinking like it was picking up where season 4 and off like at the very end. So I was like, oh man, he's looking back at a crime scene or something like that, like in outer space. Like, oh, they're cops, and like I said, I had no idea what this whole situation was all going to be about. But it's like no, like everything looked like it was frozen him because his body was readjusting to the timeline. Essentially, it's like almost to a certain extent, he was like out of time and space for a moment, and he was kind of like slowly, like his particles are slowly coming back together and fitting back into the time stream. Essentially, I think that's one way of looking at it. So I thought that was kind of neat how that was done and represented like that, because I am curious like to find out more about this whole Roach situation, because I mean like I'm sure that's something that the Kree have set up, but like for what? I mean, I guess they act as kind of guard dogs to kind of keep everyone in line, because it's almost like because basically a big part of this is like Deacon doesn't want to stir up trouble, because like this is the last of humanity. They mess up. He's like, we're only like a breath away from wiping out all of humanity if we mess up. So we got to play along. We all do our part. And it's like them being here, S.H.I.E.L.D. is just going to mess everything up, especially this whole situation about how Daisy might have been the one responsible for all of it. Which then again turns to that situation of like, but then how is she responsible for it when she's here? So it's like, well, no, because like this is the original timeline. And then it's a whole aspect of time travel. It's like everything being in a loop, where it's like one event led to this. So it's like the fact is that she's here means that the past is already changing, because that means she's not back there to do that. But on some extent, maybe even if she is here, that's, you know, it turns out the whole situation of, can the future be changed? You know, it's like, is it always set in stone? You know, is destiny a thing? Or, you know, is it the typical thing of like, well, it takes a little while for time to solidify. So the future in particular. So I don't know, like so many fascinating things kind of brought up this episode. It seemed like they were going to throw Mac in something known as a crater. I don't know whether that's like a work thing. Immediately, because they were talking about Mac's size and everything, makes me think it was sounding like it was almost like a fighting arena. But maybe that's just me reading too much into that. They ended up meeting one of their few allies in this. Her name is Tess. She's plays her character's name was Maya. She was in season 2 of the 100. I forgot her character's name in Heroes Reborn. She's been in a lot, but those are two things I know her best from. She seems like she's going forward. She's going to be one of their biggest allies. Deacon to a certain extent, but I mean, he's kind of got his own part to play in this. I thought it was kind of interesting. I like his immediate like setup of like that mask that he's wearing. I guess that's more so for like, you know, because he ended up coming through the window, so I guess that was some kind of quote-unquote spacewalking. I also like that device he has that he used on May at first and she used on him later. It's like a gravity device that when he straps it to you and it like leaves you like, like, you know, it turns off your gravity, like, and then you can also like press it and suction someone to a wall and get them stuck there. I thought that was pretty neat. Also, I love that one line where it's like, you know, they're all stuck because of those metric devices they got implanted in their arms now. And it's like, and you have Yo-Yo being like, oh man, where's an axe when you need it? And at the same time, you have Mac being like, don't joke about that. And you have Coulson being like, too soon. I was like, me personally, like, too soon? What are you talking about? You got your arm cut off at the end of season 2. What are you talking about? It's been long enough. And at the same time, you have, I guess, Mac, because Mac is like, that's not a, don't joke about that because he misses his axe. You know, that him and an axe, they go together, and it's like, I'm up here defenseless. I don't have my trusty old axe, you know, so I think that's what that was supposed to be. So I also love the fact is that Yo-Yo kind of made fun of her own ability in this episode, because it's like, oh yeah, she's fast and everything, but she's like, yeah, it's cool that way, but at the same time, it's like, you do have to remember that I can move super fast, sure, but I always have to go back to the starting point, you know. So I wonder her power is like she moves in like, she could get she goes as far as she can go within a heartbeat, I think is how that whole situation works, if I remember correctly. So, like I said, fantastic season premiere, like immediately hitting the ground running. We're like kind of thrown into this new situation. It's so fast. I'm so curious to see how this all plays out. It seems like this is going to be the entirety of this season. Well, at least the first half of the season. You know, seasons typically like diverge a little bit in the middle half just because it's like a new, I do appreciate that about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it's the only show that does that to my knowledge. Like, that basically there's like technically two major arcs in every season. Like one arc is kind of like they might coincide later on, but basically it's two separate arcs, you know, within a single show. But I guess technically it's all one huge arc, and it's just like you hit the like middle point of the arc and it leads off to like a new section of you get what I'm trying to say. I don't know, I'm curious to see what this all pertains to, like how they're going to get out of this situation, especially the way Deacon puts it. It's like no one's willing to fight back because it's like, once again, like hope will get you killed. And it's like, you know, I'm curious to see what Daisy does, especially if, you know, if she thinks this is all her fault. Like, you know, or at the very least, like everyone's kind of making it seem like it's her fault, you know? So, because no one actually knows 100% the truth. Deacon might know this bit saying it's Daisy's fault, but even then he doesn't 100% know. Like none of the files exist. Maybe the Kree do, because it seems like the whole point is to keep humanity down without giving them much technology, making them work for them. To me, like, I don't 100% get, like, obviously it's all about making humans submit because the Kree think of themselves as a beautiful, perfect species. They're the greatest, blah, 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 right? So, but what are they ultimately trying to decide to do? Like, why not just wipe out humanity? I mean, because the way they make it seem like the Lifehouse is something that keeps them all alive. That basically by everyone playing their part, like, the Kree kind of help keep them alive while they help keep the Kree in this whole situation running. It's like, I mean, we do see at the end of the episode, they do get a quote unquote guest, but for what purpose and who exactly, you know, maybe like, it'd be kind of cool because, like I said, it'd be nice if we kind of got like a little bit more expansion, like beyond the lighthouse. I mean, we don't know what's beyond this and Earth and everything. So maybe we'll kind of do more planets and stuff like that. I also appreciate Yo-Yo having a line of like, oh, really? You guys don't have like space operations set up? Because she thought, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D's like this big time secret spy organization. I thought you'd have places on the moon, which I don't know if that's supposed to be a wink and a nod to Inhumans or not. Maybe that's just me reading too much into it, but I thought that's kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm very interested to find out more about this. Like, I'm sure there's going to be an episode or so, because it'd be kind of interesting if they did this, because it'd be kind of like the flip of like season 3, because there was like an entire episode dedicated to like Simmons' whole situation on that other planet where she met I don't even remember the dude's name. The guy she met is kind of like an astronaut, him and Hive, you know? So I was wondering if they do the flip of that where we get to see like Fitz, like not just like what he's doing exactly now and like where the season 4 left off and where basically he was left off in a diner, but basically the entirety of everything he's done up to, like, you know, I'm curious to see how that all plays out. Once again, like how's that all going to work with the whole situation of, you know, time travel and everything? What does that mean for like finding out what I mean, like, how will they do that? Will they show us like what Fitz did, or will they be like, oh, this is what the original timeline is like that led to this time that they've been time traveled to? You know, I know I'm like, that's super confusing the way I worded it, but I think that's, you get basically what I was asking earlier about the whole aspect of time travel, of like the whole loop situation. It's like, how does that, I mean, we haven't got to the point where it loops yet. So like, you know, eventually everything's going to work to push them to where they are now. Maybe this has something to do with that basically the aliens that brought them to the future is like, what the fact of the matter is they were sent by the future version of our characters in S.H.I.E.L.D. from S.H.I.E.L.D. who set them up to do this so that they could fix this whole situation. I don't know. Aliens on Earth isn't something that we really kind of dive too deeply into. Like, once again, aliens in general, like the only thing in the MCU that's really tackled that so far is the Guardians. I don't know if Captain Marvel is going to deal with that or not. I don't, because I don't know her story at all. Like, even the basics, you know? So, I don't know. Like I said, overall, very fascinated to see what the season has in store for us and see what kind of other surprises. I mean, really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.